Hello everyone and welcome to Life Begins at 20. My name is Mark and today I'm bringing you my top 10 cards from Aether Revolt for Cube. After recent feedback from my previous top 10 video, which was Commander 2016, I'll be splitting this up once again into top 5 rare and mythics and top 5 commons and non-commons, as this way it will cater to a greater variety of cubes. If you enjoy the video, remember to hit the thumbs up button and hit the subscribe button if you haven't already for more content like this every Tuesday and Friday. So let's get stuck in. To start with, I'm going to make a notable exception. None of the masterpieces are going to be in this list, no matter how powerful they are. They just aren't that likely to be opened up. There truly are some amazing cards which I can't wait to see if I open up, and I hope you all manage to get one too. At number 5, I've put a couple of cards in this slot as I just couldn't decide between them as they both work in a completely different archetype support. So we've got here with Felidar Guardian and Trophy Mage. Starting with the Felidar Guardian, this is for the player that likes combo-tastic cards and supports those in their cube. So the likes of Kiki Jiki, Splinter Twin and Saheeli Rai, where they can make this go infinite. The latter of which I'm sure everyone here has heard of with the turn 4 infinite combo that players are going crazy about in standard, causing Saheeli's price to skyrocket. If this is your thing, the Guardian is certainly worth looking at. The only downside to this card is, unlike Zealous Conscripts, Pestamite, Restoration Angel and Deceiver Exarch, it's not that great by itself. The other card we have here is Trophy Mage. This card is more suitable to the player with the heavier artifact supporting cube, if I'm completely honest. I really do like a card advantage creature, and there are plenty of great artifacts in the cube at the 3 casting cost, such as all of the 5 swords, Grafted War Gear, Tangle Wire, Basalt Monolith, Mimic Vat, Worn Power Stone and Vidalcan Shackles, just to name a few. Each of those being suited to a different style of player and perfectly suited for a tutor style card. The downside I can see from this card is that a lot of these cards aren't playable in the same type of deck. If I was to choose this card, I'd want plenty of targets for it in my deck, and I wouldn't really want Worn Power Stones with my Grafted War Gear in the same deck. Trinket Mage has a lot more versatility in the cube, as it can find 1 casting cost or less artifacts, which also includes X cost as well. This not only has a greater variety of cards it can find, but unlike Trophy Mage, they wouldn't take you off curve. I'd be a lot happier to see this card if it was 2 casting costs on a smaller body. This isn't the end of the world though, but unless you are running a really heavy artifact support in your cube, I'd struggle to see this anything smaller than 540, maybe even 720. At number 5 in the rare slot, we have Schrams Expertise. While I do like all of these expertise cards as they look very fun to play with, I've only got one higher than this in my estimations. They all have a really high potential ceiling, but the problem is they also have very low floors, which is why I take care putting them into your cubes. With this card, if you have the right setup, playing this as to create 3 creatures and then casting a 3-cost spell for free is going to be great, and this expertise doesn't affect white nearly as much as blue, for example. More often than not, you'll be able to treat this as a Hordling Outburst for say 1 or 2 mana and play a creature or removal that helps your board state. Imagine creating 3 creatures and getting a free Oblivion Ring, Thalia, Stoneforge Mystic or Fiend Hunter for free. I certainly like the sound of that myself, and that's only if you're playing white cards. There may well be a time where you may not have an extra card, or it's only a 1 cost, but that still isn't the end of the world. It's a lot better than having Baral's Expertise with only 1 creature on your opponent's side and all you have in your hand is a counterspell to play for free, which is why this one is higher for me. At the number 4 slot we have Scrapper Champion. I think this is a very solid card in an aggro deck environment. It may well not get into many people's powered or unpowered cubes over the existing 4 drops available unless you're supporting more energy builders, but peasant cubes may well be interested. I just feel that a 2/2 with double strike which can buff itself up to a 3/3 when it attacks for the first time is really strong. If you are able to give it haste straight off the bat and attack, you'll do some great work for you and it can at least protect itself well with double strike. If you do happen to have ways in your cube to gain extra energy or even supporting a +1/+1 counter theme, then I'm sure this will become a monster unless dealt with. At number 4 we have Walking Ballista. This is a really versatile card at where it can be dropped into the curve. Early on it can be a 2-cost removal spell to kill off a critical 1 toughness creature such as Thalia, Mother of Runes, Mana Dorks and Dark Confidant. While this isn't a great way for spending 2 mana, it may well be very important. Later on, you'll be able to create a larger body that will threaten your opponent's 2 toughness creatures or killing off 1 toughness creatures at will. This may make your opponent think twice before trying to play any. The aspect of the card which makes it shine the most is that you can pump it up reactively. So if you've been keeping up your mana for other things such as counter spells or flash creatures, at the end of your opponent's turn you have a mana dump. This over time will help you create a creature your opponent will have to deal with. Later on it'll be big enough where you'll be able to let it do some attacking for you and a potential source of some considerable damage to either the player itself or a planeswalker which you can ping down if the need arises. As a 5/5 or a 6/6 your opponent will need to chump block this as it represents 10 to 12 damage in a single round of combat. It's also a perfect target for a trinket mage and or recruiters. This card is incredible in a super ramp deck or even a +1/+1 counter deck as it threatens any creature your opponent can drop in addition to it becoming a size where your opponent has to play creatures to deal with it. The cost to power ratio isn't very good for an aggro deck and I would not recommend picking it for one of those, but in a mid-range control, ramp or +1/+1 counter deck it can be a nice piece of early removal and turn itself into a late game finisher. At the number 3 slot we have Skyship Plunderer. This in essence is a blue Mistral Charger with an upside. Being able to give a wide variety of counters can be great, whether this is loyalty counters on a planeswalker, typical +1/+1 counters on a creature, or even counters on a wide variety of artifacts like Everflowing Chalice, Umezawa Jite, Smokestack and Ratchet Bomb, just to name a few. The 2 slot for blue is already pretty crowded, so it might be difficult to find room, but if you are supporting a counter theme in your cube, it may well edge something out. At number 3 we have Haneys Expertise. Like I said previously with the Expertise card, there is a case where the ceiling of the card will be incredible, but the floor could be really low. Some a lot lower than others for sure. This is a nice Infest Languish variant which are very strong, especially when it doesn't cost too much and there is the benefit of a 3/3 cost spell afterwards. It sits really well in a control deck being a sweeper, and you may have the benefit of having a reanimation spell for free to get something useful back, or a nice 3-drop creature to get the advantage on the board back. There'll be times where you would much prefer to have Languish instead of this due to missing out on some key 4 toughness creatures, and it may well be inconsistent due to which cards you would have available in your hand as the free one, if you have any at all, but I would be willing to give this a try due to being a fun effect with a really high ceiling. At the number 2 slot we have Fatal Push, which is a really nice piece of removal for black. If you can set up the Revolt trigger with either a fetch land, Skull Clamp or sacrificing a creature, then taking out a 4-cost creature for 1 black is incredible. The card would work out a lot better in a constructed format where you'd be able to make sure that there are plenty of ways to activate the Revolt trigger, but I think this may well be worth a go. There are a lot of great 2 casting cost creatures in Cube that wouldn't be removed with the likes of Disfigure, which if the Revolt trigger isn't up would be a direct competitor. The gap between the two isn't as much without the trigger, with Disfigure having the option to be used as a combat trick on top, but I still think it's done enough to at least be tried out and see how it fares. At number 2 we have Baral, Chief of Compliance, who is a great defensive 2-drop, with a really useful discount on spells that can find a place in a variety of blue decks. Whether you're playing a control or a spells heavy deck, this guy is able to keep aggro at bay a little while having the bonus of discounting your spells. After casting 2 spells, he works out to be free, which is amazing value for me. He does have a loot ability whenever you play a counterspell, which is a nice bonus on top, but I'm more than happy to play him if that aspect of the card wasn't even available. In a control mirror match, he may be a little weaker due to early on you don't really want the body on there and the discount isn't crucial, but against aggro, every aspect of this card is fantastic and much needed. He's certainly going to be finding room in my cube for sure. Finally, at the number 1 slot, we surprisingly have a common in the form of Aether Chaser. This is a 2-1 for 2 casting cost with First Strike, with the option of spending 2 energy when you attack to make another 1-1 body. First Strike definitely gives us a plus over typical 3 power 2 toughness aggressive creatures for 2, as it's able to protect himself from typical 2 power creatures in the cube. You do have the option to use the energy elsewhere if your cube is supporting it. If not, the extra body is a great sack outlet, skull clamp target, or artifact for peering Kiran Nalar's ability. The downside is you'd have to throw the body away against any 3 toughness creature in order to produce that extra 1-1 servo, or lose the ability to even create it. Even with that being said, I still think it's worth a look. And at number 1, which will come as no surprise to anyone, is Kari Zev Skyship Raider, which isn't just because of the legendary monkey token. Honest. The combination of having 3 toughness, First Strike and Menace means that the opponents will have to double block with more than 3 power and neither one to have 1 toughness just to get her off the board, while her 2-1 friend is busy swinging in. She's the perfect body to put equipment on, and Anthem and Battlecry effects work twice as well on her due to the second body. The monkey is a perfect instant speed sack outlet for the likes of Fleshcarver as well for added value. If I was going to be completely greedy, I'd want the monkey to stay around until the end of turn just to chuck Skull Clamp on it, but to be honest that would surely make it slightly broken. I'm certainly finding a space for her in my cube, as without doubt she is up there in the top 3 red aggro 2-drops. Well, there we have my top 10 list for cube. I bet your wallets will be glad that none of these are mythics. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. Have I missed anything that should be in the list, or one of these cards should be higher? For those new to Cube and want to know more about the format, check out my new series MTG Cube, where I discuss what a cube is, why I built one and the cards I have in mine. The series will continue with videos on common archetypes in the cube and an upcoming Cube Spotlight series. If you're going to pre-release today, let me know how you got on, and if you're heading to one over the weekend, my sealed pool construction guide will appear in the cards on the screen now, and I'll link it in the comments section below. Unfortunately, I'll be working the entirety of this weekend, so I'm going to be going to my midnight pre-release on the way home from work to pick up a pack to open up on the channel for you, hopefully tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. If you enjoyed the video, do hit that thumbs up button, and if you haven't already subscribed, do think about doing so, as I bring out new content every Tuesday and Friday. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.